They thought it was just ink. A snake skull, coiled and hollowed, etched on the wrist of a woman nobody noticed. She moved through the base like background noise, her voice lost in the static of marching boots and shouted orders. But symbols don't live on skin by accident. They crawl out of history, out of fire, out of missions that never made the news. The laugh came first, short, sharp, dismissive. Then came the silence, a silence that spread like a blackout, because the wrong set of eyes had seen it. A commander who should have walked past without a word stopped. His breath caught. His hand rose. And in front of every mocking voice, he saluted. That moment split the air like a gunshot. It wasn't a joke anymore. It wasn't decoration. It was recognition. And recognition is more dangerous than memory. They didn't see her coming. Just a clerk, they thought. Boots polished, uniform straight, clipboard in hand, moving through the chaos like she belonged to the shadows rather than the sun-baked tarmac. Eyes flicked to her wrist, and the laughter started. Sharp, short, nervous. A snake skull. They didn't know it yet, but it wasn't a joke. Every line etched into that black ink carried a story written in silence, in hidden operations that left no trace. Whispers traced the halls later. Who is she really? What did she see that no one else survived? The men chuckled at the absurdity, their bravado brittle, but the air shifted before she even spoke. One step into the room, and the SEAL commander froze. Not a blink, not a twitch, just a rigid, unbroken salute. Heart skipped, muscles tightened, the room tilted on a hidden axis. What history had been whispered into the fibers of her flesh, that a single symbol could bend the strongest of men into obedience. Reports buried in classified files hint at missions scrubbed from records, disappearances never explained, operatives erased from memory. And as the day presses on, every observer feels it. The mark they mocked is a herald, a signal of power no one alive dares to challenge. The air smelled of heat and fuel, but beneath the hum of generators and the clatter of boots, something else moved, something that had no name in any report. Ghosts, not the kind that drift in the night, but the kind written out of history. Operations scrubbed, personnel struck from the logs, deaths that never existed on paper. She carried them all, an invisible ledger stitched into muscle and memory. Every movement precise, every glance calibrated, as if she were accounting for the missing, the erased. Forums and hidden threads whisper of joint missions, Delta, SEAL, Sockamov books, that left operatives in limbo, neither alive nor acknowledged. Casualties never confirmed, reports shredded. Yet she remains, a living trace of what the system forgot to erase. The snake skull tattoo isn't decoration. It is a cipher, a ledger, a brand signaling who has seen what cannot be told. Trauma does not always scream. Sometimes it operates quietly, invisibly, teaching hands to act before the mind registers threat. And the men who notice, the few who remember, stiffen at her approach. Presence and erasure coexisting, a paradox that unsettles even the seasoned. She walks among them, yet the base itself seems to pause, acknowledging a history no one else remembers. Every folded piece of paper in the archives, every declassified hint, every forum post claiming, "I saw Ember 2 in Kandahar," they all lead back to her. And in those silent corridors, where no camera dares record, where every whisper is a potential threat, the tattoo hums. A warning, a reminder, a code for those who know the cost of invisible wars. He stepped in, the air itself bending around him. Every eye followed, every muscle in the room tensing like coiled wire. And then he saw her, the wrist, the snake skull inked in black lines that spoke of missions unspoken, of men and women vanished from logs, of bullets and blood no paper would claim. His hand rose without hesitation, crisp, formal, an instinct older than protocol, and the room stilled. Laughter died midair, breaths caught in throats. Time fractured. That single salute carried the weight of unrecorded wars, of silence that screamed louder than cannon fire. Faces flushed with confusion, disbelief, a subtle fear they couldn't name. Micro-expressions betrayed recognition. Raised eyebrows, slight tension along jaws, shoulders stiffening as if they, too, felt the echo of something erased yet alive. He did not explain. He did not look away. He simply acknowledged her existence, the depth of what she carried. Cognitive dissonance rippled through the onlookers. How does one salute what the world pretends is gone? The silence stretched, pregnant, warning every soldier that some truths lie beneath, encoded in symbols, in gestures, in the ghostly memory of missions scrubbed from history. And the question lingered in the room, unspoken but palpable. If he sees it, do they all? And if they do not, what danger waits in the shadows of ignorance? The alarm screamed, a discordant wail slicing through the dawn, Yet the rest of the base moved like automatons, lost in routines and panic. She didn't flinch, eyes sharp, scanning, cataloging, predicting every shadow that didn't belong. The radar had failed. The cameras were dark, sensors frozen mid-scan, every command channel silent. And still, she alone perceived the rhythm of intrusion, the imperceptible signatures that screamed of trained enemies moving with intent. Fingers hovered over triggers, muscles poised, yet calm, every movement measured, rehearsed, surgical. One woman, one tattoo marking decades of secrets, missions erased, operatives who never returned. She became the fulcrum between chaos and survival, bending the invisible rules of protocol into decisive action. Each shot, each command whispered without sound, neutralized threats the rest of the base couldn't even locate. It wasn't luck. It wasn't timing. It was memory etched into skin, into muscle, into mind. Ghost protocol executed flawlessly in the midst of unfolding disaster. And as bodies fell and alarms continued to scream, a thought lingered in the minds of those watching from cover. The salute had been more than respect. It had been recognition, a warning that some forces are present even when invisible, and some threats can only be stopped by someone who exists in the shadows no one remembers. The medals sat untouched, the ribbons folded neatly in a drawer no one would open. She remained at the periphery, a constant in a world that sought heroes in the wrong places. Boots pressed into sand, eyes scanning the horizon, fingers brushing against the snake skull etched into her skin. The emblem no longer laughed at but whispered about, carried in hushed tones by those who once mocked. Recruits halted mid-step, hands instinctively rising. Veterans paused, measuring, recalculating the weight of presence and absence. Fear had tempered into respect, reverence bleeding into every glance, every sideways acknowledgement. And yet she moved as if the past never existed, as if the ghost she carried didn't demand recognition. And still, the questions hung. Why remain unseen when the world has finally acknowledged the depth of skill, the truth of survival? Each silent patrol was a meditation on grief, on obsession, on the guilt of those left behind. Her tattoo a compass pointing to every unmarked grave, every operation erased, every life tethered to secrets the world could not bear to know. Her legacy didn't scream. It lingered in the quiet shuffle of boots, in the hushed exchanges of eyes, in the heavy pause before action. And in that silence, the base learned to fear, to respect, to wonder, because some truths, once glimpsed, never vanish, and some soldiers, though unseen, define the line between chaos and order.